Good evening, and welcome to the 2022 annual Spring Candidates Night for the Town of Walpole elections. I am Nancy Farris, a member of the Westwood-Walpole-Dedham League of Women Voters. The League is a nonpartisan, multi-issue organization whose purpose is to encourage the informed and active participation of citizens in government and to influence public policy through education and advocacy, embedding aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion into programming and action. It supports neither party nor person, but strives to inform voters as to issues and qualifications of candidates. There are 4 contested town-wide races on the ballot this year, and contests in all but precincts 5 and 6 for seats at the representative town meeting. This forum is being taped and will be available on Walpole Media TV channels several times and on YouTube on demand prior to the June 4th election. All candidates for RTM were invited to submit brief introductory videos to the station, and those will be aired along with this program. Citizens of Walpole were invited to submit questions on town-wide issues to the League prior to this evening. We have received over 90 questions to consider and hope that those few that were chosen will be a valuable voter service. Questions continued to come in last night and today. Whether we use them tonight or consider them useful in the future, we are thankful for all of them. In fact, just as I was preparing to leave my house for this evening's program, I received another question for the school committee. It was in light of the horrific shooting tragedy yesterday. While we will not ask that specific question of the candidates this evening, as I feel the situation is still very raw and requires and deserves careful, thoughtful consideration, perhaps beyond what is already comprehensive strategic protocol that are already in place in our buildings. I would ask that each and every one of us take some time over the next few days to consider in our own ways how we will work together to ensure that our community is safe. Thank you. So, this evening to continue, Ms. Sue Flykop from the Wayland League of Women Voters will once again serve as our moderator. Sue brings with her many years of experience dealing with voter service issues. Please join me in welcoming Sue to the podium.
Thank you, and thank you to the League of Women Voters of Westwood-Walpole-Dedham for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here in person this year, so it's good to see you all. Just to quickly go over the rules, we're going to invite candidates up here. Our first section are for uncontested candidates, and they will be giving a 2-minute introduction speech, 2 minutes to say whatever they want to say. And then after that, we'll have the contested races, and candidates will each have a 2-minute introduction. And then I'll ask the same question of all the candidates who are up here. They'll have a 1.5 minutes to respond, and we can see if we need 30-second rebuttals or not. And then the closing statements will be 1 minute each. So let's get started. We have some uncontested candidates, people in uncontested races for library trustee and planning board. If you'd like to come up and take seats at the table. Let's start with library trustee. We have Elizabeth Chase as our first candidate.
Thank you. I am interested in serving at Walpole as a library trustee because of my professional background in libraries. And if you can't hear me in the back, just wave and I will try to project more Okay. I have a background in library science. I have a PhD in English and a library science degree, and I worked as a librarian from 2004 to 2018. Starting in graduate school, I worked in the Rose Library for Special Collections at Emory University, and my first professional position was as the library's coordinator for research services. In that role, I directed policies and procedures for use of archives and rare book collections and ran our teaching program. Eventually, we decided to return to New England. I grew up in New Hampshire, and I moved to Stonehill College's McFadden Library, where I served as the head of collections, assessment, and user engagement. At Stonehill, I managed the research, teaching, and learning team and the library's collections budget. And as part of my role, I was also responsible for conducting surveys and collecting data to analyze the success of our programs and services. So my experience managing library budgets, supporting the work of librarians, and developing collections means I have a deep understanding of the day-to-day work of libraries. And I'm also familiar with and support the American Library Association's Code of Ethics and how it shapes the work of the library. As a trustee, I hope to contribute to and continue the library's efforts to build its collections, both print and digital, and offer programming and services that meet the community's needs. We're relatively new residents of town. We moved here last summer. And my family has attended many of the library's events and really appreciate everything it offers. Because much of the library's long-term plan, currently its strategic plan, happened during COVID, I think it's likely that had an impact on its goals, and I hope to be able to contribute to the next strategic planning process to support the library's developing diverse and equitable services for the community. Thank you.
And that was for library trustee, which is a 3-year term, and you vote for one person. Okay, and now we have the planning board, which is also 3-year terms, and you can vote for 2 people. We happen to have 2 people right here. So, Mr. O'Leary, do you want to go first?
Thank you. Oops. Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for providing this forum for us to speak. And I'd like to thank the town members who are here in person and those watching us on television for their interest in town government. I'm finishing my first 3-year term on the planning board, and I'm looking forward to continuing for another 3 years. Over the last 3 years, the town planning board has addressed a number of different issues, and we've used our knowledge and judgment to find a decision that's right for the town of Walpole. So I think through my experience on the planning board for the last 3 years that I have the experience for a continued duration on this board, and I look forward for the town's votes to place me back in office. As a side note, I'm also running for RTM in Precinct 2, as well as my brother. Thank you.
And we have Mr. Zakarowski next, please. 2 minutes to you.
Thank you. I want to thank also the League of Women Voters for once again sponsoring this candidates night, which is so important to the town. I'm honored to have served on the board the last 3 years and running again for another 3-year term. I'm always striving to learn more about zoning laws and procedures. I've taken seminars from the Citizens Housing and Planning Association and from the Mass Housing Partnership. Walpole is growing, and like most of eastern Massachusetts, is facing a housing crisis. My goals for serving on the planning board are to increase the housing stock, and in particular affordable housing, and to grow Walpole in a smart and sustainable way. Smart growth can be made through compact development in designated areas near transportation and town centers. It can be done that is consistent with current use, that is in keeping with the town character, that is environmentally sound, and that preserves open space. We need to get to our 10% subsidized housing inventory so that we can have more affordable housing and also so that we have more control over 40B projects. Walpole is fortunate that we are an MBTA community, which gives us many opportunities for smart growth. I'm in a unique position in that I'm also a member of the Housing Partnership, and I also am the chair of the Walpole Master Plan Steering Committee, one of 2 planning board members. The Master Plan Steering Committee will be recommending many actions to meet the goals that are based on input and the vision of the community. I look forward to seeing the master plan report to its completion and then working with the planning board to do our part to implement recommendations. Some of the master plan recommendations will require zoning bylaw changes. Other goals I have are to work to comply with the state's new multifamily zoning requirement and anticipating that we may need to rewrite our zoning bylaws. Lastly, I have been championing making all materials for planning board projects accessible online to the public. We have started this project and will be working with Patrick Desane and the engineering department to complete it this year. I want to offer to anybody, please contact me if you have any questions or I can be of any help. Thank you.
Thank you to the candidates. I wish you good luck. And the next group of candidates we'll have up here are for the Board of Assessors. We have 2 people running for 1 seat. We are going to start with our opening statements that are 2 minutes each, and we're going to start in alphabetical order. So that would be Denise Ellis first. 2 minutes to you.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the League of Women Voters and Walpole Media for hosting this event. My name is Denise Ellis. My husband John and I have lived in Walpole for over 30 years, which we raised our 3 boys here. I've been a certified residential appraiser for over 20 years, and I've owned and operated my own appraisal business. I've been in the assessing field for over 12 years. I'm currently the Director of Assessing for the town of Norton. I've been there since 2016. Prior to Norton, I was the Assistant Assessor for the town of Wayland. I was there from 2011 through 2016. I currently am a member of the Mass Association of Assessors, and I preside on the Ethics Committee for the association. I'm also a member of the Northeastern Regional Association of Assessors and the International Association of Assessors. So with my experience, obviously, I'm very familiar with the assessing department and the Board of Assessors. I believe with my real estate experience and working for the municipalities, I'd be the perfect candidate for this position. Thank you.
Thank you. No, can you hold on the applause, please? And now we have Richard Pila going second. 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone, and my opponent, Denise. We just had the pleasure of meeting for the first time this evening. My name is Richard Pila. I am a candidate for Board of Assessors. I've lived with my wife here in Walpole for this November will be 13 years. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this event on, and hopefully the turnout at this event this evening is indicative of the turnout that we'll have on Saturday, June 4th, because it really is all of our civic duty to vote. I'm running for the position because I believe the board needs to be proactive and not reactive. In particular, by being an advocate for formulating a better tax policy that includes true tax relief for seniors. Rather than taking the path of least resistance by simply shifting between commercial and residential taxpayers, I believe the Board of Assessors needs to be aggressive in researching, formulating, and proposing solutions that will allow town government to provide the highest level of service its residents deserve and pay for, but doing so without further burdening taxpayers, especially seniors that are on fixed income. If elected, I will vigorously lobby for the Board of Assessors to take on a role as a research and policy arm of the Select Board. We all know that the Board of Assessors can make recommendations, but it's the select board that either takes those recommendations or does what it feels what it wants to do. As a real estate advisor to corporations, institutions, and developers. Time? Okay, I'll get to the rest of that as we go through.
Well, Richard, you're going to start off with the next question, so you can choose to expand on what you were saying. The first question is to please describe the experience you have that makes you the best candidate for this role.
That was the rest of my introduction. Well, thank you very much. I've been a real estate advisor for the past 35 years after I left the restaurant business. And I've worked with corporations, institutions, developers during that period of time. I understand that the best way to increase tax revenue is by creating value. If Walpole spent more time doing that, it would not need to keep going to the residential taxpayers to fund pet projects. As a former RTM, chairman of the Old Town Hall Reuse Committee, and Walpole's representative to the Norfolk County Advisory Board, I've always looked for and succeeded in finding creative solutions to achieve the mission at hand, just as I did in showing how the town of Walpole could have made an additional $3.7 million, and that's before any compounding, tax compounding, in its investment income by moving from the Norfolk County Pension Fund to the State Pension Fund. I am not an assessor, but I know real estate. I know value. I know how to create value, which in turn increases our tax revenue. I look at this very differently than somebody who's been in the business. I look at this in a way, I ask myself, how can we improve the delivery of services, but do it in an efficient way so as not to burden the taxpayers?
Thank you. Denise, the question is to you about your experience that makes you the best candidate for this office.
Okay. Well, again, I am the Director of Assessing. I've been in it for 12 years, and part of my job is to bring in new growth for the town. And by doing that, you know, we go out, we look at all the properties, we pick up all the additions, things like that. As far as the assessments itself, you know, we can only, excuse me, lost train of thought. So with the assessments, in Massachusetts, we reassess every year, and we go by what the market is doing. So with that point, so we're restricted on what the values can be. And by doing that, that's all reflected in the new growth and the levy and all of that. So the levy, I'm sorry. So the spending is, the tax rate is based on your levy. So there's only so much that we are allowed to do because of the state regulations. But with everything that I do within the town and being on and running my board, I just feel that I'm the best candidate.
Okay. Thank you. So the next question, we'll start with you, Denise. How would you collaborate with the Assessors Department and contribute to the Board of Assessors?
Well, that's something I do with my board, you know, twice a month. So what I'd like to do with this board is, again, you know, with, there are certain things that we can do out there for the seniors and the veterans. And again, it's all what the state allows us to do. So there are some things that we can do for the seniors. There's a new program that's in the State House right now. It's called Senior Means, which there's about 5, maybe 6 towns that have that right now. I'd like to try to implement that, work with the board with that. And there's also work-off programs, you know, to help the seniors and the veterans. Looked into that. I'm not quite sure what you're getting now, but maybe we can increase the amounts on those, just to help them out as much as we can.
Okay. Thank you. Richard, the question is to you. 90 seconds. Do you want me to repeat it?
Please.
How would you collaborate with the Assessors Department and contribute to the Board of Assessors?
We're never going to solve problems if we continue to do what what we have done year after year after year. We have to start looking at outside of the norm. There are solutions. Has anybody looked at best practices? What are municipalities in other states, in other regions of the country doing? Regarding this pending legislation on Beacon Hill, knowing how Beacon Hill operates, once it creates those benchmarks, that criteria, one would have to be indigent in order to get the monies that they're talking about. So that's not the solution. The solution comes from the Board of Assessors, the Select Board, Economic Development, Planning Board, Engineering Department, to sit down and collaborate among themselves to see how they can deliver services better, more efficiently, and less expensively. We do not have to go 2.5% increases every single year. There is more money in the budget that would not, where we would not be required to every year go to the maximum amount allowed.
Okay, so hang on to the mic, Richard. Next question is to you first. Is the financial IT system for the town of Walpole outdated? Is it able to handle tax collection on time? And what might be your plans to modernize the financial system?
Can you just repeat the first sentence of that, the beginning of that?
Is the financial IT system for the town of Walpole outdated?
I have no idea. I'm not familiar with the system. But I can say one thing, there are a lot of inefficiencies. So it would not surprise me to learn once, if I'm elected, if the people want me to represent them. It won't take me long to look at the system and make a determination whether it's working the way it should be working.
Okay, the question is to you, Denise. Do you want me to repeat it?
No, I'm fine. So there's only a few programs out there for for municipalities. I'm not sure what Walpole has, but I am sure that they have one of the better ones because I do not in my town. So, but I think they're probably fine with what they have as long as they have what I think they have, which I'm not really too sure. And there's not a lot of choice out there. If they're not having a problem with their billing system, then there probably isn't a big issue, I would assume. But I don't know what their financial package is.
All right, the next question will start with you, Denise. We have many tax assistance programs available. How might you expand or improve on any of them? I guess if you want to expand on your earlier comments.
So as I mentioned earlier, I did check into what the seniors are getting for the exemptions and the veterans, and they are up at the top. They're at the highest they can get at this point. And again, everything is state regulated. So we can only go so high for the exemptions. And again, there is the senior means, which is kind of like the circuit breaker. Some towns have a circuit breaker, and that could come out of, you can go either way with the senior means. It could have it in the overlay, which is the assessor's account, or there's different ways with the senior means, and it's going to be, just changing the tax rate a little bit, which I don't even think anybody would even notice it. It would be so minimal. And then the second thing, again, the work-off programs, I'm not sure what they do in Walpole, but I know with the veterans, they just increased that last year, so hopefully they can get more hours in and make more money and get that, adjusted to their taxes.
Okay. The question is to you, Richard, now. Do you want me to repeat it?
No. Thank you for offering, though. The programs may be good, but no one is going to say that they cannot be better. And that's why I said before that one of the functions that a proactive Board of Assessors, in working with the Select Board, is to do some research. Look at other programs, look at other communities. And again, not just in Massachusetts, because Massachusetts doesn't have all of the right answers. You'd be surprised what other communities are doing around the country. We should be looking at those, and just say, this is what we have, but how can we make it better? And that's one of the things that I will do if the people decide that they want me to serve on the Board of Assessors. To be open-minded and just look at all of the options and question what we have and say, is this the best program that we have? Is this the best program that we can offer the taxpayers of the town of Walpole?
Okay, thank you. You can keep it. We're on our last question. How would you like to see the American Rescue Plan funds allotted within the town of Walpole?
Has the town really looked at what its needs are? That's a question. I don't know the answer to that. You know, there are many people who have a lot of questions regarding, I think it's $7.5 million. I think you need to do a complete audit of everything, all the facilities that we have, and you have to prioritize. But you want to stay within the town's means. For 2 years, I served as chair of the Old Town Hall Reuse Committee. We submitted a proposal in June of 2019, and we came up with ways that we could put that building back to the use that it was originally intended over 100 years ago, as the focal point for the community life in the town of Walpole. It is our #1 landmark. Every month that goes by, there's more and more deferred maintenance. Mark Almeida, who's, I think many people know, is a local architect who has worked with historic buildings for many years in many places. And he did a complete physical audit of that building. Working with Mark and the members of the committee, we came up with ways in which we could put that building back to use without costing the taxpayers 1 nickel. That report's been sitting on the shelf for that time. So that's one area that I think that we could use that money.
Okay, thank you. And Denise, 1.5 minutes to you. How would you like to see the American Rescue Plan funds allotted within the town of Walpole?
I have to apologize because I don't even know what that is. I'm sorry. I've never heard of that.
Okay. Well, we're going to move to closing statements then, and we do them in reverse order of the opening statements. So Richard will go first with closing statements that are 1 minute each.
Couldn't be beauty before age?
I don't take sides, so, you know.
Oh, I know. On Saturday, June 4th, Walpole voters will be going to the polls, and we hope many of them do, more than the typical 15, 16, 18%. There are many candidates that are running, and they all have messages that people need to hear. And we want the people to go and vote and exercise their civic duty. As for myself, I hope you will seriously consider my candidacy. Look at things that I'm proposing, and I hope you elect me. Because one thing is for certain, if the people do elect me, it's not going to be, we're going to do things the way we've always done them. Because when you have that mindset, you don't accomplish anything. You don't make any improvements. And I will pledge today that if I'm elected, I will dig deep into that position, and I will be making recommendations, along with Dick Sicaro, who's an incumbent, to make that body responsive to the taxpayers of the town of Walpole.
Thank you, Mr. Pila. Denise, to you, a minute, closing statement.
So again, being an assessor and working with a board, I feel that I'm the best candidate for this, and I hope I get everyone's vote for this. And I just want to say that, it's great that you want to bring in new things to the town. On the Assessors Board, when there's a change, that has to go through the Assessors Association. From there, it goes to the State House. So there's a whole process in order to make changes for the town. It's just not something that the board can do by themselves. Anything big like exemptions, adding different exemptions, any of that has to go through the channels. So in saying that, and again, with my experience, I just feel I'm the perfect candidate. So I hope I get your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you to both candidates. I'm sorry? I'm sorry? No, I'm sorry. After closing statements, we can't do that. But thank you. So again, that was for Board of Assessors. You're going to vote for one person, 3-year term. Thank you. So next up, we were going to have the Sewer and Water Commission candidates. I believe that there is one candidate here and a representative of another candidate. Would you like to come up? So we've had a little hitch with, so league rules require 2 candidates minimum to have a conversation, to ask questions. We have one candidate who's not here and another candidate who at the last minute could not make it. So what we have asked a representative of Jeffrey Fisher and Bill Hamilton to do is to give their 2-minute opening statements. Unfortunately, we won't be able to ask any questions because we only have one candidate here. If you have questions that we weren't able to ask, you might want to email the candidates or ask them in another way. I'm sorry about that. But so let's go with Joanne Mullen, who's representing Jeffrey Fisher. If you could read the 2-minute opening statement, please.
Hi, my name's Joanne Mulligan. I am an RTM in Precinct 5, as Jeff Fisher is also, and I'm very pleased to read his statement. Okay. So I'm going to read right from his candidate statement. My career over the past 25 years has focused on managing large enterprise software and IT transformation initiatives. My primary focus has always been to drive and deliver value to my customers and clients, and this will be my objective in the role that I would play in the sewer and water for the households and businesses of Walpole. A major component of my career has also included financial management and oversight of both capital as well as operating budgets. I have consistently been able to lead teams that deliver value to customers on time and on budget. In addition to my professional career, I've been a member of the Permanent Building Committee since 2018, having overseen the successful completion of the police, fire stations, as well as the Council on Aging building. I currently serve on the Finance Committee for the Town of Walpole, as well as the School Building Committee, the Bylaw Review Committee, and I've been in RTM since 2018. So Jeff's goals are for the board, for Sewer and Water Board, to be able to work with the Town Administration, Sewer and Water Division of the Public Works, as well as the Finance Committee and fellow commissioners to build a balanced budget that keep rates affordable to our residents, while ensuring that we maintain the capital reserves needed to maintain and upgrade our utility infrastructure. I will also look at cost-saving opportunities that can benefit our customers, as well as support policies that protect the quality and sustainability of our water resources in the future. Thank you in advance for your support.
Great, thank you. Mr. Hamilton, Bill, would you like to read your 2-minute opening statement?
Thank you. Pardeep has done super work on developing a fair billing rate for Walpole. Pardeep has studied all the abutting communities towns because they are geographically similar. However, Canton may be the best model to use to formulate our sewer and water billing formula. I worked for engineering consulting firms that designed and built municipal sewer and water projects. I worked for KPMG Co-Partners when we pioneered auditing through the computer. I have a Bachelor of Science in Engineering and a Master in Computer Science, both from Boston University. I also lectured at Boston University in systems programming. I am in favor of bringing back the fire suppression fee, which would help reduce the use of retained earnings to pay for infrastructure maintenance. I worked with Dr. Jemsek to stop sludge from being dumped in the only MWRA sludge dump in Massachusetts, located here in Walpole and approved by the Department of Environmental Protection. The MWRA must have a sludge dump in Massachusetts. However, it can't be used until it is hooked up to the sewer. I will help the Sewer and Water Department to prevent the MWRA from hooking up to the sewer, because the MWRA sludge dump is in the Charles River watershed, and our sewer is in the Ponset River watershed. On June 4th, please cast your only vote for Sewer and Water Commissioner for William T. Hamilton. I will work hard to make sewer and water rates fair and affordable. I oppose raising water and sewer rates.
Okay, so thank you. So there are 3 candidates for Sewer and Water Commission: Jeffrey Fisher, Bill Hamilton, and James Taylor, and you will vote for one. And thank you for being here. Can you have what? No, sorry. Sorry. All right. Our next group of candidates will be for Select Board. So if Ben Barrett, Allie Hamilton, and Bill O'Connell can come up. So we're ready. We're ready to start with Select Board candidates. And we'll start with opening statements, 2 minutes each. And we'll go in alphabetical order. So Ben Barrett will be first.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Ben Barrett, and I've been a member of the Select Board for the last 3 years. I'd like to thank my family, my wife, Katie, my 10-year-old Ellie, and my 7-year-old Will for their support of my volunteerism. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work for our families, so thank you to them for their support over the years. I'm incredibly proud of the work that we as a board and as a community have been able to accomplish together over that time. In particular, I'm proud of our reinvestment in critical town infrastructure, our willingness to engage in new programs that have a wide impact on many residents, such as the Cost-Saving Green Communities program, and our commitment to ensuring that we support our friends and neighbors that are in need through programs like the senior tax exemption and others that I'm sure we'll get into tonight. I'm running for re-election because we can and should continue down this path of responsible and sustainable spending on items such as educating our kids and developing our downtown, while acknowledging and actively working to provide support for those that require it. These goals are attainable, and they are not mutually exclusive. We can and should pursue these ideals, which are essential to maintain the vibrant and involved community that we have here in town. The Select Board and Walpole as a town have made great strides over the past 3 years in improving transparency and communication between the town and its residents, as well as cooperation between boards and committees, which has yielded the efficient and responsive municipal governance that all the residents deserve. Looking ahead, we need to continue to improve in these areas, and through ongoing efforts, such as the master plan update, which I've championed, we can ensure that Walpole's future is as bright as its present, and that residents can continue to take part in and be a part of this wonderful community that we have. I look forward to your questions and would be deeply honored to be re-elected to the Select Board for 3 more years. Thank you.
Thank you. Allie, to you, 2 minutes, please.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for coming here tonight. This is my first time running for the Select Board, but I am not new to the commitment and passion it takes to be a member of our community on this level. I am a working mom, so I am balancing the life of working, running a nonprofit business, spending time with my family, and being an active volunteer in our community. I'm currently on our Finance Committee. I have been serving on Finance Committee for the last 5 years. I'm an elected RTM and have been since 2017. I am the chair of the Bylaw Review Committee and as a member of the Bury Middle School Permanent Building Committee currently. I started my passion for volunteering in town as a founding member of the Full Day Kindergarten Task Force. As being someone on Finance Committee for the last 5 years, I have a unique perspective and knowledge of the complex issues when it comes to the town's budget. I look forward to working with other members of our boards and committees, because I really feel that we need to be collaborating and listening to each other to solve some of the issues that are ahead for Walpole. I feel that it's important that we have a diverse group of individuals on the board, and I appreciate everyone's perspective. We may not only always agree, but we should continue to have that discussion, because together we can move forward as a town. I would appreciate your vote in June 4th election. Thank you.
Thank you. And Bill, 2 minutes to you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank the board, actually thank the league, as well as Ally and Ben for participating this evening. My name is Bill O'Connell, and I'm running for Select Board on June 4th. I just want to give you a little bit of background. My wife and I, Eileen, have been here for 30 years. We've raised 3 kids in this wonderful town. My kids aren't townies. We're not townies, but my kids are. My kids are products of the Walpole Public Schools. And, you know, at this point, the reason I'm running is because the kids are a little bit older. I feel like I can devote a substantial amount of time to the town. And given my experience, my skills, I'm an attorney. I've been an attorney for 25 years. I specialize in real estate, litigation, as well as elder law. I feel like I could really add some value to the town. I sat on the zoning board years ago, so I feel like I have a special knowledge in the area of land use, which is, as everyone is aware, the land use issues, including the 40Bs that have been ongoing in town and that we'll be facing in the future, are very, very significant. So I feel like I have a good, broad background. The town is, and the select board in particular, is probably always looking at potential litigation. I'm hoping that I can assist the board in identifying potential areas, staying away from litigation, keeping the cost down of litigation. I can't even fathom what our litigation costs have been, especially for 40Bs in the last few years. So again, with those skills, I feel like it's, I'm really going to add a lot of value. What I want to do, and the reason I'm really running, is because I want to protect the taxpayers and the ratepayers, especially our elderly. Walpole has a spending problem. With the influx of state and federal funds, I think Walpole and the town leaders should take a cue from the state, Karen Spilka and Governor Charlie Baker, that I think potentially looking to give back some money. So I'll continue on what my priorities are as far as spending, as far as, thank you.
Okay, Ally, first question is to you, and this is a minute and a half. What do you believe are the most important issues facing Walpole currently and for the next several years? How will you address these issues?
Well, that's a very loaded question for a minute and a half. Walpole has come a long way, and we have accomplished a lot. I think we have some great initiatives that are taking place right now. We have our middle school that is currently being planned and will be starting construction this summer. Our downtown development, we have our master plan committee. I've attended multiple of those meetings, and that is something that we are working on. I do feel like our seniors, they need some tax relief, and there's great. We have 6 current programs, and I hope that we can continue to expand on those programs. Our community is a green initiative. Again, we are working on solar panels. We have LED lights. There's more to be done there. Affordable housing, I think that is a big issue as well. And again, that takes a collaboration of not only our Board of Select, our assessors, our planning, our ZBA, our 40, the 40Bs. I do not feel that these large buildings that impact a small portion of our community are what we like. I want us to take ownership of our affordable housing. There needs to be more options, and it needs to be something that we address as a community. There's so much, and so I hope I hit as much as I could in that time. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bill, the question next to you.
Thank you. I think that the most important issues that are facing the town really are again, just with inflation, with the hyperinflationary environment, just making sure that we protect the taxpayers, the ratepayers. I was the only candidate in the race who stood in favor of the Water and Sewer Commission's effort to keep the soaring water rates at 7.5%, as opposed to the 17% that was pushed by our select board and the finance committee. Again, with the influx of state and federal funds, I want to see some money come back to the taxpayers, if possible. There was discussion about senior tax relief and having to really abide by what the state says. I would hope that the town would try to give the seniors a break. They really haven't done that thus far. I went to the meeting last night. I feel like that it was shelved and they're going to defer to home rule, which could take forever. If I were elected, I'd form a committee. I think that's very significant. I'm going to keep an eye on the middle school to make sure that it's delivered on time and comes in under budget, and then or at least at budget, which it's going to be difficult these days. With respect to COVID funds, I think that's very significant, right? We're probably going to be looking at potentially over $9 million. Let's make sure we spend it on infrastructure, not on things that we don't need. As far as the master plan, that's great. Let's make sure that we're bringing in business, that we're doing infrastructure, and we're not spending it on social justice issues. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ben, the question to you, 1.5 minutes. Do you mind repeating it? Sure. What do you believe, Ben, I'm sorry. What do you believe are the most important issues facing Walpole currently and for the next several years, and how will you address these issues?
Thank you. Yeah, I think we've spent a lot of time and a lot of words talking over the past, say, 3 to 10 years about our infrastructure. And so we have these new buildings in town. We've addressed it in the schools. We've addressed it at the Council of Aging, our public safety. That was a really glaring need, because without the infrastructure as a basis, what are we as a town? That's what underpins our town. And so in that regard, there's more to do there, but I think we're in a place where we can really look at it in a really strategic and sustainable way. I think that the other two candidates have made some good points as far as the master plan is really meant to guide us through the next 20 years as a town. What do we want to do with our downtown? What do we want it to look like? What sort of businesses do we want? And getting that engagement from the public is so important. So I think that the Master Plan Committee has done a really good job of that so far, and I hope that that continues. And that's really meant then to be a guidebook for towns, to say what are our priorities? And coming out of that will give us 5 to 10 reasonable ventures that we can undertake. In terms of housing is conceivably the most critical issue facing the town right now. We had put forward some ideas at the select board level. Town meeting has been involved with that as well. And we need to continue to look at how we can make Walpole more affordable while ensuring that we can fend off these 40Bs, because it really brings in housing and types of housing that we don't want, and it puts it in places that aren't helpful to the town. And it's not helpful to the people that need that type of housing either. And I hope to talk more. I assume there's going to be other questions about ARPA funds. That really deserves 1.5 minutes all by itself. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bill, this question is to you first. Can you talk about the budget process and the role of the town administrator, the finance committee, select board, town department, and town department heads and RTMs?
Yep. So, as far as the budget process, I know it starts, at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, the budget's set, and then FinCom, obviously meets and deliberates. I think it's important that the town, again, really focus on, and I think one of the assessor candidates had referenced it, really trying to look out for the taxpayers. If there's a way that they could potentially not tax at 2.5, tax to the max. The town spent tens of millions of dollars in the last 10 years in free cash that they potentially could have used for some of these projects that are coming up. We're going to have a high school renovation, which might be 25 to 30 million. We just had an override, which was substantial. So I want to make sure that the select board, when the town administrator sets that budget, is looking at each department and making sure that they're efficient. And again, the key is going to be on infrastructure. It's not going to be, we've spent $1 million, I think, on a feasibility study for Old Town Hall, for Johnson. We're spending, consultants' fees on the master plan committee. I don't know. I've heard over, $250,000. So we've got to be efficient, and we've really got to protect the taxpayers. Given these crazy times, it's important that The taxpayers come first, and if we can give something back to them, we should.
Okay, thank you. Ben, this question is to you next. Can you talk about the budget process and the role of the town administrator, the finance committee, the select board, town department heads, and RTMs?
Sure. So it really starts with the department heads and the town administrator in November of the year prior. And they put together the budgets that they think they'll need with the improvements that they'll want for staffing and other things within the departments. They get with the town administrator, they hammer through some of the items, and it's really critical that the select board is involved at that point. You know, we get into the details as well with the town administrator, with the department heads, looking at what the asks are, looking at what the needs are, and so that we can really start right from the beginning with a really reasonable idea of how we want to sustainably grow as a town. And that continues then into the beginning of the year, January through March, where the Finance Committee then really drills down into the details. And that 15-member group, which is appointed by the moderator, they really do the heavy lifting. They drill down into every line item and look at it in really detailed granularity to see what is needed and what isn't. And then, of course, the ultimate arbiter is town meeting. And they decide what on the budget is approved, what is not approved, and ultimately what passes. And so when we talk about the budgets, that's just really one piece of the three pieces that make up our tax rate. There's the Board of Assessors, the elected board, that sets the assessments of the property. There's the Select Board, which sets the commercial and residential split. And then there's, again, town meeting, which approves the budget. So those are the three main pieces that go into it. There's a lot of review and a lot of oversight, and it's critical that we get that right, you know, year over year, so we can ensure that we're growing sustainably and that we're responsible with those funds. And as I said in my opening statement, really striking that balance between what the town needs to grow and what our residents can afford.
Okay, thank you. Ally, the question to you.
So the budgeting process. As being a member of FinCom, I have really enjoyed the last 5 years of getting to know our town budget because it is much more complex than when you initially start to think about it. So as Ben alluded to, there's that three-corner kind of step with our assessors, our select board, our town administrator. All of our department heads come forward with a budget. Our town administrator comes forward with a budget, reviewing theirs. As Finance Committee, we do go through line from line, and one of the benefits of being on that committee for multiple years is that you look back at the years before. You look back at those changes. Where were those increases? And you get to ask those questions. What is this increase for? What are we supporting? It's very important. I think it is important to realize, too, much of our budget, about 80% of our budget, is tied up within our employees and our union contracts and obligated expenses that we have for the future. That is a big portion. When we talk about overrides, which the middle school was a very important project, there's also our debt budget to consider. And the town is thoughtful in their planning as we move forward with these projects and for the community to build. We also have, let me gain my thought for a minute, our capital budget committee too. And that is another point because the community is growing and we hope that we can grow it in a way that supports the needs of our community as we have a very diverse community.
Thank you. Okay, this next question, we will go to Ben first. Is it time to consider leaving a town meeting form of government and adopting a town manager, town council? If yes, what should the process be to do so?
Yeah, you know, that process is, that's not my timer, is it? That was quick. That's the quickest minute and a half I've ever heard. Yeah, so that is a really, really interesting question and deserves a lot more than a minute and a half. I think you have to look at, as we have the boards and committees that the town has now, why they were put in place, what their function is, and are they still part of an efficient government that is going to deliver results and services that residents need and that residents deserve. And so I think it's critical that we start there. And we understand that the town is growing, the population is growing, we're getting additional buildings, larger buildings, we're having denser development downtown, and we need to understand what best serves the community. Personally, I feel that the town meeting model still does fit our community. I think that there are boards and committees and there are ways that the municipal government currently operates that need to be changed and they need to be streamlined. We've done a lot of that work over the last 3 years, and I think that there's more to do there, and so I would really enjoy being a part of that. Some of that's going to come from the master plan, and some of it's going to come from residents and other ideas that they have. But I think that town meeting is a reasonable way to move forward over the next couple of years. But I think that long-term, more like on a 10 to 15-year basis, I think we need to take a real hard look at if the town administrator model, a weak town administrator, strong select board, if that really does fit our town. Because asking volunteers to help run the town in that way, it may not be sustainable. So we'll have to look at it.
Thank you. Bill, the question to you next.
Thank you. God, no, we should not get rid of town meeting. I'm a little biased, I'm a town meeting member, but it's a wonderful body, right? It's our legislature, and our residents get to participate in making the laws, looking at the budget. So that's the last thing I would want. I would note that I'm concerned after last town meeting that, given, again, the legislative authority of town meeting, the personnel board was eliminated. The water and sewer committee had a tough time, in making some of their articles. So it's imperative that we keep town meeting, that, folks get involved. It's a wonderful, wonderful system. I mean, look at everyone here tonight. This is why Walpole is a special town. But I am concerned that town meeting is losing some of its clout. The fact that the personnel board was eliminated, or the town moderator appoints the personnel board, okay? It was eliminated at town meeting. It didn't go through, it didn't go through home rule. It didn't go through really a vetted process. It was eliminated through an article. Those folks that volunteered on the personnel board had done it for years. I feel like they served an important function, but it was eliminated. And again, I'm concerned about some of the other boards in town. I'm concerned about the Water and Sewer Committee. I want to make sure that they continue to be autonomous. We don't want it to be a rubber stamp. We want them to raise issues, especially budgetary issues, and offer a different opinion. Thank you.
Ally, the question's to you.
Thank you. I am also a member of our town meeting, and I appreciate the fact that we do have a town meeting. And at this time, I think it is an efficient way for our town to run. And I think it's part of the checks and balances in town. Being that our body, this last town meeting was a little bit difficult. I think we should go back to our typical schedule of our Monday nights. But I think in general, it is a very active group of RTMs that come to the town meeting with a great deal of experience. Currently, our boards and committees, as has been alluded to with the volunteers, that can be difficult. It can be difficult to fill. And I think you do have to look at those boards and committees, and are they doing a job that at this time is current and valuable to the town? Personnel board was created in 1954. At that time, we did not have a town administrator. We did not have human resources. It has been a board that's been hard to fill. And in a sense that it was vetted, that it went through our select board, it went through finance committee, and it went through our town meeting, which is an elected body of representatives of town as well. So town meeting right now, I would say yes, it works. I think it is an active group of community members. I think is a good representation of our community.
And does anyone feel they need a rebuttal? This seems like a meaty topic, but you're all okay? All right, we'll move on. Ally, this next question, we'll start with you first. Now that Walpole has been designated a green community, what goals going forward might you see coming to fruition? How do you see the growing solar energy creation being regulated and distributed?
So Walpole is a green community. It is something that I am very passionate about, of being an avid recycler, composter. I believe in green initiatives. I think our solar panel projects that we have going on at our schools are very important. I think the middle school being built, that it will have hopefully our solar panels on it, and be a very efficiently run building. This library in itself was one of our first green buildings in town. It was very important. I think Walpole needs to continue with some of our initiatives and give access to grant money that is out there. We recently have started converting our street lights to LEDs, which will be a huge cost saving to our community as well. Some of the initiatives I would like us to continue working on. A local town is actually installing an electric charging station in their downtown, which could be useful to some of our businesses and residents in town. I think there's so many green initiatives that towns are seeking that we should continue moving forward with those, with our trash, compost, recycling, our new cardboard unit that will be going to our compost site. So I think we're going in the right direction, and I hope to be a part of that.
Okay, Ben, the question is to you next.
Okay, so it's a great question, and there's really three different ways to think about it. One is, that there's a mandate at the state level that all municipalities adhere to certain requirements for vehicles and for energy and for solar and all of these things. And it's not a long time, right? It's the next 25 years for some of the goals that you have to face. That's a mandate. That means that municipalities have to do it by law, right? So that's one way we have to look at it, is we have to plan for that ahead. We can't wait till the last second and then say, oh my goodness, we're not ready for this. The second thing is, I do believe we have a moral obligation to do more as a town, and that we can do more. And the third is that there are cost savings in these sorts of green initiatives. And it's probably some famous business person that said you have to spend money to make money. Well, that's true with these green communities opportunities. We got $160,000 in grants right off the bat from becoming a member of Green Communities. And every year thereafter, we're going to get around $160,000, $175,000 in money from the state to do with whatever we want. We can put solar panels in the schools. We currently use, as Ali alluded to, some of that money to replace all of our streetlights. We had to spend money to buy those streetlights from Eversource, but we're going to recoup hundreds of thousands of dollars annually in energy costs and maintenance costs because of the LED lights that are there now. So there are plenty of more initiatives out there. There's plenty more grant money that we can go after. We've established a great foundation over the last 3 years to do that, and so I really look forward to being a part of that and hoping to execute that plan.
Great. Thank you, Bill. Question is to you.
Thank you. And I'm all for renewables and green initiatives. With respect to solar panels, I did support the solar panels at the last town meeting on the roofs of, I think it was OPR and one of the other elementary schools. I was concerned about the solar arrays that were approved at town meeting in the Johnson parking lot. I felt like we were potentially tying that parking lot up for 25 years, especially if we're going to potentially reuse and repurpose that building. As I mentioned earlier, I think, again, the town's looking at a feasibility study, spending a substantial amount of money. So renewables are great. Ben mentioned, state funds and having to expend money. That's good, but I just want to make sure that we're operating efficiently. I am concerned, with the folks up in North Street, with the Aggie, with the panels. I think that's an issue where, they don't have much control, and I think the town is trying to support them. But we have to make sure that we strike a balance so that the environment and some of these beautiful spaces that we have in Walpole are not compromised in the name of renewables or green energy. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so our last question, we'll start with Bill. What ideas do you have for allocating Walpole's American Rescue Plan funds?
Again, I want to make sure that we're spending the money on infrastructure. I think that we're going to run SOAR up to the fields, which is terrific, right? Maybe we have some development opportunities in South Walpole and 1A, the industrial park. Who knows what's going to happen with the prison? May again phase out in 2 years, but I don't know if there'd be potentially some business and industrial development there, as well as on the Norfolk line, the potential Amazon site. So I want to make sure that we're using those ARPA funds wisely. I don't want to, I heard that we spent close to $750,000 on snack shacks for the field, which is fine. I get it. I voted for the fields, but let's make sure that we have our priority set, which will include taking some of those ARPA funds. Even in the water and sewer article that passed, there was an issue. Select board felt like there wasn't enough capital reserves, and they were concerned. Let's allocate some of that money, some of the ARPA money, for water and sewer infrastructure to give the taxpayers and the ratepayers a break. No one wants potentially a 17.5% increase in their water and sewer rates.
Okay, thank you. The question goes to Ben next.
Yeah, you know, these ARPA funds really represent a huge opportunity to the town to be able to really undertake some projects and some investments that otherwise we wouldn't be able to. The town has, and depending on which department you ask, $40 to $50 million worth of backlog in infrastructure projects. Everything from water and sewer to bridges to culverts to roads. And this is something that's not unique to Walpole. All municipalities are facing it, right? And so the most critical thing to me, and I've said it in select board meetings and we've talked about it, is that we need to listen and we need to put the word out to get as many ideas and as many viable alternatives as possible. So we're actually going to hold a meeting in June that's going to also include the Finance Committee, the School Committee, the Sewer and Water Commission, Capital Budget Committee, all of the department heads. And that's really the sort of, you know, round table brainstorming meeting that we need to have when we have these sorts of opportunities. What are the available projects and available needs for all of these groups and all of these department heads? And then we can create a list from that and really say, well, out of these, what is going to have the best impact, right? And what is going to have the most wide-ranging impact for residents? Because at the end of the day, what we want to be able to say with these funds is, yes, we've addressed infrastructure, but we really want to be able to say that we've impacted as many residents as possible in a positive way, and that we've improved either their lives or the services that the town provides to them through the one-time use of these funds.
Thank you. And to Ally.
Thank you. The ARPA funds, I think right now we have about just a little shy of 7.5 million, and I think about 2 million have already been allocated. And in those pieces that have been allocated, I think it is a little bit of a diverse group where we're addressing HVAC systems, bridges, streets, the needs for bathrooms, the 1A fields. So it is impacting a diverse amount of projects. Our infrastructure and our capital improvement projects, there is a long list. And there's a long list for our sewer and water, there's a long list for our buildings, our schools, and this is why department heads create 5-year plans. And we do need to attack all of those, and this is one-time funds. So when you're looking at our budget and we're looking at our debt budget, and some projects are already built in and planned for, but what else can we do? Getting the community together to bring their ideas forward, I think, is very important. And there should be projects that have a positive impact on the community. You know, people mention pickleball, people mention 1A in the bathrooms, people mention our infrastructure, our sewer and water department. I think they're all valid ideas, and we all need to come together, and that goes along with my message of collaboration amongst our boards and committees and making decisions together.
Thank you. All right, so we're ready to go to closing statements, and we're going to go in reverse order from the opening statements. So that means, Bill, 1 minute to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. In closing, I'm respectfully asking for your vote on June 4th because I feel like I'm the best candidate. Again, with my skills, experience, and knowledge, I feel like I really can add a substantial amount of value to the town. I'm going to boost transparency and collaboration involving, again, the federal use of COVID relief funds. I'm going to engage the community to explore new issues, new uses, and minimize maintenance costs for the Old Town Hall and Johnson Middle School in a manner that benefits the community, the whole community. All right. As far as the master plan goes, I just want to make sure it's workable and includes actionable recommendations and priorities, including tax revenues via commercial development and infrastructure. I'm going to promote a locally smart growth approach to housing, affordable housing. Again, it's a critical issue. It has been for many years. I feel like we're in a safe harbor right now, under 10%. We've got to make sure that we do it smartly. We've had opportunities. We've missed opportunities to get to safe harbor. We want to make sure we stay there without large multifamily developments coming into town. Again, I'm going to make sure that our boards stay autonomous. And for those reasons, again, I look forward to hopefully getting elected and moving Walpole forward. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And Ally, to you, 1 minute to you.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone taking the time to come out here tonight. I have spent the last 5 years really dedicating my time and volunteering in a number of ways and working with a number of different committees. I really hope for your vote in the June 4th election so I can continue that work. I look forward to listening to members of our community, to collaborating together and moving Walpole forward in ways that will positively impact our future. I think we have come a long way. We have some great new buildings in town. We're working on our middle schools that we're addressing. We're working on needs such as accessibility in Walpole with our playgrounds, with our sidewalks, and I think our green initiatives, our affordable housing, I think we need to take ownership of that and create a plan. I think there's so much to look forward, and there's a bright future, and I look forward to being a part of that with your vote.
Thank you. And Ben, 1 minute. Closing statement.
Yeah, you know, we've touched on a lot of really important issues that are facing the town tonight, and I think it goes back to some of the items that I said in my opening statement, which were that we really need a collaborative and a coordinated approach to this. We need to be able to, integrate the input from all residents, all the boards and committees that we have here in town, and that's how we're going to arrive at the best solution. And the outlook, the outlook is bright, as I said in my opening statement. There's a lot of positive things going on in Walpole right now, and we're in a really fortunate place as a town that we have the downtown area that we do, that we're able to have the opportunity to develop it in the way that we want. And so it's going to be critical to be able to do that and also balance, the sustainability of it. We need to be able to undertake projects that are going to be reasonable. We need to be able to put together budgets that are going to fit the needs of all our residents, and we need to come up with services that really do, again, fit the needs of all our residents. I would humbly ask for your vote on June 4th so that we can continue this work, and I'm really excited to keep this momentum going that we have from the past 3 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, as a reminder, these are 2 seats for the Select Board for 3-year terms, Ben Barrett, Ally Hamilton, and Bill O'Connell. Thank you. And school committee candidates, please come up when we're ready to start. Good luck. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's get started with the school committee candidates. Just as a reminder for Walpole residents, there are, you'll vote for 3 candidates, and the terms are 3 years long. And we have 6 candidates for school committee. We're going to start with opening statements, again in alphabetical order. Then I'll be asking, I have 5 questions, and we'll mix up the order as best we can for the candidates, and then go to closing statements. Okay, so we will start with Caitlin Benoit. 2 minutes to you. Do you have the mic? Unfortunately, you're going to have to pass the mic back and forth. I'm sorry.
Good evening, everyone. Can everybody hear me? Good? A little louder? Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for the Women League voters for inviting me here, and thank you for everyone showing up and watching it at home on TV. This is truly a very important election. My name is Caitlin Benoit, and I, along with my husband Thomas, live in Walpole with our 4 children. I originally came from West Roxbury, did a little stint in Norwood, and then moved to Walpole for the school systems. I believe that parents are the primary educators of their children, and I believe that needs to be respected, and we in Walpole need to better involve parents. I feel like Walpole has gotten into a bad habit of seeking forgiveness instead of asking for permission, and in a lot of cases, the parents are the last to know what's happening in their kids' school. I'm really concerned about what's happened since post-pandemic, as well as what metrics have been or are being taken to make sure that all children are mentally prepared or well and academically prepared for success in the future. And I feel like teachers are being more tasked with more and more social emotional learning, and it's less focus on the actual academics, which kids need to be successful. And I really I've never done anything like this before, but I love to advocate for children, and I would love to be a voice and give parents a platform, because in these past 2 years, I feel like as a parent, parents haven't been supported or given a voice, and a lot of choices have been made for their children without their say in it, and I feel like that's not okay.
Okay, thank you. Mark Breen, 2 minutes to you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, everybody for being here, the people at home, and especially the other candidates. I know that's kind of repetitive, but I think it bears repeating. My name is Mark Breen. A little bit of background. I put 3 kids through the Walpole Public Schools. My oldest is Molly, and I have Mara and John Henry. They're 26, 24, and 22, respectively. I've been teaching at King Philip High School up the road in Rentham for the last 28 years, and I've been on the school committee for 10 years, and I'm on and chair of the school building committee. This is my 5th election cycle, but the first one where I have campaigned in any meaningful way, up to and including preparing written remarks for this forum. I have typically gotten my name on the ballot, wished any opponent good luck, and hoped for the best. Given the difficulties of the last couple of years, COVID restrictions in particular, I feel it important to step up and stand by what we have done in this difficult time. Many people were passionate, yet more than civil, about mask policies and so forth, but some were far too strident, and have apparently continued to be so on social media, in particular with regard to a couple of my colleagues. I can't participate in this forum without calling that out. This aside, I look forward to moving on from these difficulties, and we will, and focusing on things that we all wish could have been our primary focus these past couple of years. We have a new superintendent and assistant superintendent that have moved up the ranks in Walpole. That means the school committee doesn't scare people off, and I work in a community where the school committee has scared a couple of people off, not recently, but in the past. We have a $115 middle school project that is of particular interest to me. In this volatile economy, building it is still only half the battle. We have to integrate 2 school communities, staff, students, and families alike. And I just added this morning. Given the recent events in Texas, we have to make sure and meet the ever-present needs of safety and security and the emotional well-being of our students and our parents. I mean, for goodness sake, how many nervous parents are there out there? So I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Carrie Denizio, 2 minutes to you.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for giving us all the opportunity to speak directly to the voters of Walpole, and thank you all for being here tonight and watching at home. My name is Carrie Denizio, and I'm seeking a 2nd term on the school committee. I have lived in Walpole for 13 years. My husband Brian and I are raising our 3 children here. Our youngest is in preschool, and this year we have a kindergartner and a 2nd grader at Boyden School. Public education has really been the bulk of my life's work. I started working in public schools 15 years ago as a paraprofessional when I was in graduate school, then as a classroom teacher, and most recently as a school counselor. I've worked in K-8 and middle schools in both urban and suburban communities, and those experiences have really informed my advocacy on behalf of Walpole students, families, and staff. In recent years, I've been involved in the successful push for free full-day kindergarten, the Safe Schools Initiative, and I helped to lead the successful Yes for Walpole Middle School campaign. This work reflects my belief that our schools need to be accessible, safe, and welcoming environments equipped for 21st century learning. I have a long track record of additional service to our town, including as an RTM in Precinct 4, a volunteer with the Walpole Cultural Council, Be Inclusive, and the Master Plan Steering Committee. I am also one of the co-founders of Future of Walpole, which strives to keep residents informed about our town government. I have enormous pride in the Walpole Public Schools. I know of no other district that managed these COVID years as collaboratively and effectively as we have. We've navigated the ever-changing pandemic landscape within the confines of our budget while simultaneously pursuing transformative measures for the district. As a team, we've done excellent work, and I want to ensure we remain on a path to continued excellence. I consider it a privilege to serve on the Walpole School Committee, and I'm eager to continue that service on behalf of our community.
Thank you. Nancy Gallivan, 2 minutes, opening statement, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. And again, thank you to the League of Women Voters, to my fellow contestants here, and to all of you that are here in person this evening. I am really proud to live in Walpole. I think it's a great place. It's a great place to raise a family. I've raised my 4 children here, and I am so proud of the good work that's going on in the Walpole Public Schools every day. I'm particularly proud, as some of my colleagues have already mentioned, about what it has taken to get through the last 2+ years. I call it unified cooperation. It took teachers, students, custodians, nurses, administrators, parents, and all kinds of staff to rise to the occasion. But they did, and they did an amazing job, all for the benefit of our kids. None of it was easy. It required listening, compromise, adjusting, readjusting, and lots of extra work. But we're stronger because of what we've been through, because of this unified cooperation. Just before the pandemic, we hired a new superintendent, one of the decisions that I am most proud of. I feel that Dr. Goff is the right person for this job. The tremendous energy that she brings is contagious. I think we're poised to bring this district to amazing places as we recover and thrive from COVID-19. That's one of the main reasons that I want to run for another term on school committee. I think that we really are in an exciting place, and I want to be part of it. I think that I have skills that involve listening, sharing options, and considering diverse ideas. I know I have a skill related to the support that you need, but also the challenge that you need to put in front of your administrators. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mary Ellen, Jordan, Mercier, 2 minutes to you.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to all the residents here tonight for taking an interest in our town and our election that are on June 4th. I am running for school committee because I have been a teacher for 37 years, maybe not in the traditional way, but in a unique way where I have I have 6 children, and I have worked with the curriculum development department in Walpole and created my own curriculum development because I have 6 children. 1 went to public school, 1 went to private school, and 4 I homeschooled. So in homeschooling those children, I have an understanding of education, academic excellence, and a vision for children's future. All my children are highly successful, and I have to say that is my desire for the town of Walpole and the students of Walpole. I have to say that I have worked with Girl Scouts for 40 years, and I'm proud of that. I am passionate about education, and I'm passionate about children, and that is my statement.
Okay, thank you. Adrienne Rogers, 2 minutes to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. In a recent speech by Abby Wambach, she stated, "Tables are big in the corporate and social justice worlds. We are forever discussing who does and doesn't get a seat at the table, how to get a seat at the table, and what to do and say when we get to the table." She goes on to describe what we do when we get that seat. She says, number 1, dig deeper, demand numbers. I've always led with this. Put information, numbers, and research where your mouth is. Listen to all and investigate concerns to get informed answers. A few months back, I started this journey with the simple goal of using my background in education to help guide and support our community through a school committee appointment. Since then, I've learned so much about how the systems function and some of the amazing work our current members, school staff, and teachers are doing. My goals have now grown to not only guide and support, but become an ally and liaison between people, schools, school committee, and the Department of Education. I've had a diverse career in education as a teacher, an advocate, a professor, an evaluator. I've spent my career honing the skill of advocacy with knowledge, kindness, patience, and understanding of the other side. As an advocate for children with special needs, I've been up against powerful people and gained respect through a level head and confidence that I was speaking from a place of research, information, and numbers. But my biggest reason for doing this is my children, who attend the Walpole Public Schools. I have a blended family with 4 elementary-age children, 2 of whom attend Walpole Public Schools, Blake in the 1st grade and Abby in the 4th at Elm Elementary. I moved to this town for the community and the school system, and I feel incredibly lucky to have been here throughout their schooling, and especially during COVID when things were so uncertain. For all of these reasons, I want a seat at the school committee table. Please make sure you get out and vote on June 4th.
Okay, thank you. The first question will start with Mark. Yeah, I was going to change it. Oh, okay. You want to go to 2 and then this? Okay. All right. All right, so the first question is to Mark. How would you balance meeting the budget and goals for the Walpole Public Schools with available revenue?
That's a good question. I think we have to have a goal of staying within the budget. You know, I think we've been promising year in, year out after the override that we'd stay within the budget, and I think we need to continue to live up to that promise. I think revenues have been strong. If you look at state revenues the last couple of years, the last couple of quarters anyway, that they've far exceeded expectations. You know, hopefully some of that will come the town's way. I think in this inflationary environment, we need to be very cautious about spending. You know, we've just spent $115 million on the new middle school. You know, that would be a priority for mine, to make sure that that comes in on budget. I can only speak in generalities, but I just think people need to be aware that I am cognizant of the need to be willing to tighten our belts if called upon.
Okay. We're going to go to Mary Ellen next. 1.5 minutes. How would you balance meeting the budget and goals for the Walpole Public Schools with available revenue?
I feel that the Walpole Public Schools have done a good job with balancing the budget. My concern right now is, with inflationary times, that the state will not be giving us as much money as needed, and we are going to need to look at other resources to help meet those goals that we have. I also believe that there are ways, and there are public businesses and support out there that we could look to. We don't necessarily need to depend on the state. And that is my goal, is to look at other options besides the state for funding, because I do believe the state is having their own financial crisis also, and that's going to come tumbling down on all of us. So we need to be a little more open-minded and look outside of the box.
Okay, thank you. Carrie, the question is to you next. You should all let me know if you need me to repeat anything.
Thank you. The school department is obviously the largest chunk of the municipal budget. We all recognize that, and we take the responsibility of fiscal stewardship very seriously, because we know that we need to work in combination with the town side to make sure that all the departments get what they need. I don't think you'll find a better business office than the one in the Walpole Public Schools. They stretch every dollar, and they look for every ounce of funding they can find, whether it's through the government, the federal and state allocations, grant money, innovative programs like purchasing their own vans for the transportation department. They're working really hard to make sure that the money is well spent. I often quote the saying that what we fund is what we value, and I think that our district does a really good job of prioritizing what our students need and developing our budget accordingly. And an example of the I think really effective fiscal management that I've seen was when the first round of COVID funding came through. A lot of districts were using that to fund staff, permanent staff. Well, that was one-time money, and so once that money goes away, those districts are caught in a bind of how are they going to continue to fund those positions. Our business department really worked to use that money on capital expenditures and infrastructure improvements that are going to be long-lasting. I just think that's a great example of how our budgeting process is really thoughtful.
Thank you. Caitlin, the question is to you next.
I think it's hard for me to make an informed statement without being able to see the actual numbers, but I know for certainty what we need to do is stay within the budget or as close to it as we can. We are in a spending crisis, and I think that anything we can do to limit spending is in our best interest overall.
Okay, thank you. Adrian, the question is to you next.
I think that another thought is, looking at the way we're spending now. So to stay within the budget, if we can, be creative about the way things are being spent. I agree. I think that I'm so proud of the Walpole Public Schools, and I think that we do spend money well. I've worked in Westwood Public Schools, I worked in Hopedale Public Schools, and I've seen spending go awry. And I feel like here I see support, I see infrastructure, I do see, employment of paraprofessionals and people being put in the right places. So I just think that maybe there's an opportunity to be creative with spending in order to stay in budget.
Okay, thank you. And Nancy?
Thank you. This is a topic that we could spend an awful lot of time on, but I love looking at the budget. It is just one of those recycling things. We just passed the budget for next year at town meeting a couple of weeks ago, and already we're digging into the things that we can and need to control. It scares me when I hear people say that we have a spending problem, because Walpole spends less than the average per pupil for most of the towns in this area. And spending less, if that's your only goal, you have to cut your services. So, it's one thing to say we want to spend less, but what are we going to do less of? And I think we give an awful lot of thought to the things that we can control. We're in the middle of contract negotiations right now, and we're not afraid to have difficult conversations. It's a particularly challenging time to do that because, as I said earlier, our staff has gone above and beyond, but we have limited resources, and our community has limited resources. I think as a group, we're pretty talented at having that conversation, even though it's a difficult one. Mark mentioned earlier that we passed an override, and it's important to live within that. We passed that override in 2012. That's more than 10 years ago now. And the naysayers told us we were going to be back at it, and we haven't been. So it's something to be proud of. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question is to Carrie first. What is the role of schools in teaching students about social and emotional topics such as health and sex education, cyber safety, mental wellness, bullying, and an authentic social studies curriculum?
That is absolutely a lot for 90 seconds. Most of those things are governed by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We're required to have bullying prevention plans. We're required to educate kids about what bullying behaviors are. It helps, prevention through education is really critical. Also for health and wellness. I think health and wellness is a topic that can generate some angst among parents. I think for the topics that are covered that are particularly complex, parents are usually they are notified in advance of what's coming. They have an opportunity to discuss what's going to be brought up in class with the teacher or the school nurse or whoever is doing the instructing. They have an opportunity to opt out if they want to. But from what I've seen, I had an opportunity to review the new health curriculum for the grade 5 students, and it is absolutely phenomenal, very inclusive, very destigmatizing, and I think really useful information for our students to understand what themselves and their peers are going through. I think what this question might really be getting at is what should the schools cover and what should they shy away from? And I think it's important to know that the fullness of human diversity is on display in any Walpole Public School building that you walk into, and so is the curiosity among our students and their hunger for deep knowledge around the world, about the world around them. We shouldn't be afraid of that. We shouldn't shy away from it. We have a responsibility to honor it, and I think that we are doing a fabulous job of that.
Okay, thank you. Adrian, the question is to you next.
Okay, I'll do my best to get through all those things as well. With the social emotional piece, I know that my kids love SEL at school. It's one of their favorite subjects. So I think they enjoy talking about social emotional issues. I think it's made them open with their classmates. My son, not to disclose too much about him, but he has a significant stutter. And so it's been helpful for him and his class to have a place for people to talk about being patient, being kind, being understanding, and that social emotional piece has been huge for him feeling comfortable at school and being able to converse with his classmates. Bullying is I'm a huge advocate for rights for students and making sure students feel safe. Writing that into ed plans when it becomes something that we think if it's a special need that puts them at risk for additional bullying. I think that's hugely important. Health education, I also met with our principal to make sure, to go over the curriculum. I think that some of this fear stems from hearing things and hearing it from this person, this person, this person. I think if we can go directly to the source, it's going to alleviate so much of this fear. So I talked to our principal, I talked to our guidance counselor, and I felt as well, as Carrie said, that it was appropriate for what I felt, and that's my opinion. So it might not be comfortable for someone else, but it was comfortable for me. So I just encourage people to talk to the source, talk to your teachers, talk to the principals, talk to your guidance counselors, because they want to talk to you.
Okay, thank you. Mary Ellen, the question's to you next.
Well, there's a lot included in here, and first I'm going to say I feel that the schools need to be more aware of children's mental health issues, and I feel that they need to address them directly and work with the families, work with the pediatrician, and work with the community. I feel that's an issue out there, that mental health issues are not being recognized, or there's something I feel lacking out there, and I feel we need to come together as a community to work on the mental health issues with the entire community. I also feel that sex education, I feel, is the responsibility of the parents. But if the parents choose for their children to have sex education in the school, then that can be their option. But there should be an option for parents to opt out. I also feel that there's not enough transparency with what is being taught in these courses. I know when my son was in the school, I had a lot of difficulty getting the information. And I feel that some of the programs they're using for the children are taking away our children's innocence. Only 15 seconds, I can't go into it.
Okay, Nancy, the question is to you next.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a big one, not a 1 minute kind of answer. One of the things I worry about on these topics is, unfortunately, these get highly politicized, and I really, really urge people to do what Adrienne just offered that she did, to not take on what you're worried about nationally, but what's going on in our schools with our kids. I think it's a tremendous privilege and responsibility to educate every child to their authentic selves. I think that one of the ways of addressing mental health is to make every student feel like they belong. They are accepted for who they are in our community. These are our neighbors and our neighbors' kids, and some of them are different in different ways. We all have differences. I think our school district is doing a really good job of teaching kindness and teaching kids to be inclusive and try not to let somebody feel left out. Those are the beginning things that help with mental health. I know that we've hired guidance counselors, adjustment counselors. I think that it is a shared responsibility between parents and families. And when it comes to sex education, there's no more ideal place for parents to learn what's going on with their kids at that particular grade. I think you'll be pleased to know that we do a good job of meeting kids where they are. There's a lot more to say, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Caitlin, the question is to you next.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. What is the role of schools in teaching students about social and emotional topics such as health and sex education, cyber safety, mental wellness, bullying, and an authentic social studies curriculum?
Well, I think that it needs to be put to the parent first. And when they say that the curriculum is available, it's not available in detail. And I think if more parents saw the detail of curriculum, like the websites that are used, like amaze.org, they would probably have more questions than they would feel comfortable. And there are certain, it needs to be remembered that there are certain people who aren't ready for their fifth grader to learn certain topics. And opting out is very exclusive, in my opinion. And I think when it comes to sex education, it should be an opt-in curriculum, especially with the depth of what we're teaching our kids. And nothing is being done to inform the parents when a child has a mental illness or like, for example, a survey was sent out to kids at the middle school without parents' knowledge, and from that survey resulted a focus group. And, it's again a situation where parents are being, told after the fact. You can't unring a bell. So I think that, we need to focus more on teaching kids how to diagram a sentence and less on proper pronouns.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
I would echo much of what's been said. I'm a little bit out of the loop compared to several other members here. My kids are older and I teach high school, so I can only really speak to the high school element. I have students that are transgender, non-binary. I just do. They're great kids. I have students of all walks of life. And I don't think a week goes by where I won't have some counselor or guidance counselor or an adjustment counselor give me a heads up. Can you please just be aware, keep an eye on this kid. They're going through a difficult time. Just a couple of days ago, they were looking for a kid to make sure that she was still in the building, to make sure that she didn't, go off and, potentially do harm to herself. That was a concern. So I think we need to be on high alert about these things. I can't really speak in depth to the younger kids, but it is a real thing. And parents could certainly opt out. As an aside, kind of humorously, I used to be a substitute teacher years ago, and for about 3 years in a row, I swear, every health teacher was miraculously absent on the day when we had to show the miracle of life. So I became a little bit of an expert on that. So, but you know what? Then there were kids that opted out, even at the high school level. So, but I would defer to the parents of younger children with their concerns.
Okay, thank you. You've all said that it's a meaty topic and it's hard to do in a minute and a half. So I'm just going to run through the same order, see if you have anything else you want to add or respond to what someone else has said. So Carrie, you were first. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything.
No, I think I'm okay.
Okay. Adrian?
I think the same.
Okay. Mary Ellen?
I personally feel that parents need to be more involved and understand what their children are learning, especially with the social emotional learning, sex ed, and even in their subjects. I think parents should absolutely have access to books and have accessibility to conversations with the teachers if they have any questions. And I know teachers are always available, but I think parents are busy and working, and I think they need to make that a priority, looking into what their children, and having a conversation with their children. I work with children in my job, and I talk to them, and I found in talking to them, parents don't have a conversation with these children.
I'm sorry, Mary Ellen, your time is up. Can you wrap up?
If we all had better conversations and were more aware of what's going on, we could help in the school system and the children's social emotional learning.
Okay, thank you. Nancy, 30 seconds to you.
Sure. A couple of other things I would say is, I do think education is the best tool around for mental health, social emotional learning, and as well as human development, sex ed, whatever you want to call it. And I think that, but it's a shared responsibility. I think it's super important. When it comes to sex ed, most people, well, I didn't realize how much sexual assault happens on college campuses. That's a conversation that needs to happen in our schools. And maybe parents just don't know that 1 in 5 usually women, are sexually assaulted. So we can share that responsibility because there are just some things that neither side knows. But I think it's important, and education is really important.
Okay, thank you. Caitlin?
I think it's important to note that what my opponent said about, the guidance counselor bringing it to your attention. I think as a parent, that terrifies me that you're bringing it just to another educator's attention. And as an educator, you're not qualified in mental health. So if you're including the parent but not having this very important conversation, then you're actually really not including the parent. And, it's not that we can't have conversations about this, but what is being done to actually teach kids what to do in these situations?
And thank you. And Mark?
So just to clarify, I have no idea, from my end, I don't know what conversations are being had with the parents. And I don't have any inside information on what issues these kids are going through. They just want their teachers to be aware and be cognizant. It's a very much a privileged bit of information, and it's necessary. The kids need to know, and the kids are typically told, I believe, that we're going to make your teachers aware that you're having a difficult day or a difficult week, and I would almost guarantee that the teachers their parents are also aware, that the school's making efforts. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move on to another question. And Nancy, this one is to you first. So what is your position on policies that support the identities and needs of LGBTQ plus students?
I think I began this a few minutes ago. I think that we have a responsibility to welcome every student who lives in Walpole to our schools. And there are students who are non-typical. And if they are members of the LGBTQ community, I think we have to serve them well. And I think part of what serves them well is to allow them the space to be who they are. I think that does not mean that we have to change all of our academics around it, but I think it's about supporting people authentically. And I think we do a good job with that. I think for the last easily 5 years, we've been talking about social emotional learning in an inclusive kind of a way. It just means be kind to each other. It means that a school community comes together and doesn't exclude people. And I think that needs to be our message.
Thank you. Carrie, the question is to you next.
Like Nancy said, we have a responsibility to create learning environments that are safe and welcoming for everyone, where all students can show up as their full selves and thrive academically and socially. All means all. Nobody should have to hide or minimize any aspect of their identity to feel welcome at school. And all our LGBTQ plus students want is to be treated with basic respect, and for us to consider that maybe some of the traditional ways of doing things in school aren't fostering that welcoming and inclusive environment. I mean, things like establishing an all-gender bathroom at the high school, or, changing the language on a permission slip to be inclusive of everyone's pronouns, those actions cost us nothing and they harm no one, and yet they go a long way towards showing support for our students. So I think, I take very seriously the responsibility that we have to promote environments that are inclusive of all of our students, every single one.
Thank you. Caitlin, the question is to you next.
May I ask you to repeat it again?
Of course. What is your position on policies that support the identities and needs of LGBTQ plus students?
I think it's super important to meet their needs, but I also think it's super important to meet all children's needs, no matter what they are. And I feel like if we're so focused on the needs of a small population of the community, then a larger population isn't necessarily being heard. And I feel like if somebody is really struggling, these bully prevention programs we're talking about should be stepping up and stepping in. And I feel the more that we're focused on, the LGBTQ community, the less we're focusing on academics. And I think the numbers in Walpole show that. Like, all students should feel welcomed at all times. And I think it's unfair the way that people have labeled me as hateful online without even knowing me, because I am far from hateful. I think that if a student, regardless of how they identify, if they feel uncomfortable, then there should be a safe place for them to go. If that's not happening, then we're failing our students. But it has to be all students.
Okay, thank you. Adrian?
Thank you. I think it's hugely important to be supporting our LGBTQ plus community. What everyone has said, that all students deserve to feel safe at school and welcomed at school. I think some of this, it's trust, right? We need to trust in schools, we need to trust in each other, and that comes from communicating. I think there's a fear that all this time is being spent on sex ed and on LGBTQ. It's not. The majority of the school day is academics, and teachers are struggling to get all the academics in our school day. So there's not huge amounts of time that are being spent on this. These are lessons throughout the school year that are focused on making sure kids feel safe, and like Carrie said, just different reminders throughout the school day and in the school culture to be inclusive and accommodating. So I think we need to kind of step away from that we're not spending hours and lessons on this. This is just a cultural shift that we need to be. It's from the top down in schools that they all do, everyone deserves to be safe. But there is, a huge focus on academics. That's what we do here in Walpole.
Okay, thank you. And next to Mark.
So I'll echo what's just been said. I think kindness, understanding, trust, communication. I read recently, one person, mentioned that one of their greatest difficulties were teachers, that just didn't seem to be kind and understanding. So I think, teachers, and it doesn't even require a great deal of professional development, just an awareness that you need to be kind, you need to be understanding. As we said, these are not top to bottom lesson plans to take up much of the day. There's subtle little moments that you build into the course of the day to make a student feel welcome. I do it at the high school level, with my students. I teach a sociology class, and that talks about social change. And I have a couple of funny stories about childhood friends of mine that came out as gay as adults, and how time has changed. You simply wouldn't have come out as gay not so very long ago. And I got to tell you, when I can't share it, not right now, but one of them is a very funny story, and a couple of them are very funny stories. And, you tell that funny little story, and then you start to get these smiles in the hallway from a couple of kids in class. Or a kid will walk up to you after class and say, thank you. I mean, this stuff, it doesn't need to be, some of the things that you read online or in the news about some, I guess you could call, I don't know how to describe it, but maybe overdone curriculums. It needs to be something that teachers can be very comfortable with, and parents.
Okay, thank you. And Mary Ellen.
Well, we all seem to be repeating and having the same ideas, except I have one different idea. I truly believe all students should be accepted, and I truly believe all children should feel safe. And in the safety of having a transgender bathroom, I think we should have bathrooms set aside that for children who LGBT, not to separate them, but for children who want to use them. Just say a safe bathroom. We don't have to designate it, but not all children will feel safe going into a bathroom with LGBTQ students. And I've heard that from students I work with. So I just feel, in all fairness, we should have 3 bathrooms, and that would be fair, and they would feel safe and secure. I think I feel all students need to be accepted, need to be loved, and need to feel secure and safe. And how we address it is how the school committee is going to have to come up with an ideal plan.
Okay, thank you. Hang on to that microphone, Mary Ellen, because you're up next with the next question. The pandemic has taught a lot of lessons. What do you feel are the greatest challenges for students and staff going forward, and how would you address them?
Okay. Well, I feel some of our, I feel perhaps students were left behind educationally because they had to learn from computers. Not all students are enjoy learning from computers, are capable of learning from computers. I feel like there was a lost year. And I feel in Walpole, we have some math proficiencies. In Walpole, we have 65% through 10 towns, including Rentham, Attleboro, Dedham. Math proficiency is only at 65%. We are one of the lowest in the area. Our reading proficiency is 70%. That's still one of the lowest in the area, even though it sounds great. And our college readiness is actually 39%. I picked up these facts from the computer where I just said, where does Walpole stand? And you can go to the computer and pick it up, read it yourself. And I feel that there is a college in Massachusetts that won't even take Massachusetts students. I don't want to say that because many students are getting accepted, but readiness for college, we are listed at 39%. I don't know if these statistics have come from due to COVID, but I think we need to address them and bring up academic excellence once again in Walpole.
Okay, thank you. Caitlin, the question is to you next. Sure. The pandemic has taught a lot of lessons, and what do you feel are the greatest challenges for students and staff going forward, and how would you address them?
Well, I think most importantly, students need to feel like they're in a safe environment where they can thrive academically, socially, emotionally, mentally. I think they need to feel like they can trust their teachers, and I feel like actually parents also need to feel that way because kids vibe off of their parents. If their parents are nervous sending them to school, then I think parents, I think kids will pick up on that. Especially in light of what happened yesterday, that tragic event. I think it would be great to have like an Officer Hart. We can't multiply him, but I think it'd be great to have a recess or officer at every school that is ready and prepared in a moment's notice. I think that we need to have more involvement of how parents feel to keep their kids safe, because what seems safe for one parent may not look safe for another parent. And I think, again, it comes down to what safety, we have to look at our community as a community and respect the individual child and their parent relationship. And that's where a lot of safety practices should come from. But as a school, we can do more with the resource officer to keep kids safe, and that would be my answer.
Okay, thank you. Adrienne, the question is to you next.
So in education, consistency is key, right? And we lost 2 years, basically, of educational time. So our learning was disrupted. So I think what we can do now, and things I'm happy to see in our elementary school system, is the reading programs we developed, the math programs that they're going to use throughout. So they use Foundations, which is a systematic reading program for reading, and they just voted in the Bridge program for math. So those are going to be consistent from K through 5. I think I've seen in a lot of school districts we're jumping from this curriculum to that and not having that consistency throughout. So, there's not a lot we can do about that lost learning time outside of trying to provide resources and tutoring and, things that we can try to support online or, additional learning time. But I think that now we can be consistent and try to get kids, caught up as much as possible. I worry most about, because it's what I'm passionate about, and I have a master's degree in special education, my kids that have lost services. So we can't get those services back. And we have hours of compensatory time that are due to kids, but it's just not going to be possible to get all that back. But what can we do instead? So I'd love to see more ideas about how we can use that funding that's allotted for those students in ways that we can get some more services now for them.
Okay, thank you. Mark, the question is to you next.
Could you repeat the question?
The pandemic has taught a lot of lessons. What do you feel are the greatest challenges for students and staff going forward, and how would you address them?
I don't know about a challenge, but I think just being back in the normal routine, you can't understate how important that's been. It's just colossally important at the high school level. I haven't heard, at the high school level, math teachers in my school, concerned about learning loss and so forth. They seem to have accommodated that with whatever plan they went into this year with. The proof will be in the pudding with their MCAS scores, I guess. Again, I'll defer to the younger parents when it comes to the younger kids, parents of younger kids, pardon me. My wife works in special education. She's at least anecdotally shared that it seems with some of the younger kids, you have a little bit of an intervention, in part that puts the parents at ease, and I think the kids maybe read off of the parents, and then suddenly those gaps begin to close. So, we need to accentuate the positive, not make the kids feel stressed about any learning loss they have, then it becomes self-fulfilling. But that's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Nancy, the question is to you next.
Thank you. I think that there are a couple of pieces to this. There's the academic piece, there's the social emotional piece, and there's the, what can we do about it piece. And I think that we've all said this already, but our teachers have worked overtime this year especially. They worked very, very hard to adapt to hybrid learning last year. And we, as a school committee, have paid an awful lot of attention to academics this year. It's exciting to hear how, even though it was still a COVID recovery year and there were still changes that needed to be made, it was really powerful to see how much time and effort our administration and our teachers were putting into academics to see where the gaps are, but to do it in a thoughtful way that informs instruction. The good news, or the bad news, depending on how you want to look at it, is all kids in the United States, in the world, have gone through this. I work in a middle school right now, and I was telling my students the other day, you're going to be interviewed 60 years from now about what was it like, because you're living through something that the rest of us haven't. We're offering a free summer school program to fill in gaps, but I think our teachers have done a really good job. It's the social stuff that Mark was referring to that I think is important, and we had all the kids back this year, so we're glad about that.
Okay. Thank you. Adrienne, this next question is to you first.
Carrie didn't answer.
Oh, Carrie, I'm sorry. I checked you off, but you haven't actually spoken. Sorry.
Thank you. So research shows that students' sense of self-efficacy and their sense of belonging are among the greatest variables that impact their academic achievement. And I think, probably all of us in this room lost in some way our sense of self-efficacy and our sense of belonging during the pandemic. Obviously, our children did as well. So how do you get that back, I think is the question. And, it has to be about more than trying to cram in extracurricula or, putting pressure on the students to catch up or pressure on the teachers to catch up. I think we have to empower teachers to make adjustments to the daily curriculum to help the students regain their confidence, their stamina, and rebuild their foundational skills so they can access the grade level content. I think that it's really important to give teachers the space to do that, and I think the way that the district is supporting them, as Nancy alluded to, is we're doing a lot of analysis and data collection, especially in ELA and math, using diagnostic tools like iReady to look at where gaps are and to develop targeted interventions to the students that need them. That work is going amazingly well. So I think that we really need to make sure that we're helping our students regain all the skills they need, academic as well as social emotional.
All right, so Adrienne, now we're back to you. I apologize, Carrie. Okay, so several of you have mentioned families with special needs students. So this question is, sort of growing on that. What will you do to engage and involve special needs families who feel isolated from the community?
I think it's all about communication and reaching out, making sure that parents know when there are meetings for the SPED pack, knowing that there's groups out there. I think it's just knowing what the resources are in town, and I would love to be able to provide those resources and be a point person for some of those things. I taught for years the basics of special ed and the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of basic special education law, so I think I'm fairly knowledgeable and would love to be a contact for people, but I think it's just people feeling community and knowing they're not alone. So I think it's pulling people together with similar experience to know that they're not alone. And I think especially during this time that I do see, a fair amount of, I have seen learning loss and services that kids weren't getting. I think it now more than ever, it'd be nice to even give teenagers a way to talk to each other that are capable of doing that. So not only the parents, but capable students.
Okay, thank you. Nancy, the question is to you next.
Thank you. I think that I agree with Adrian that we have an active special ed pack, and I know that the teachers make that connection for families if they're new to the special ed department or if they're new to the district. And I know a few of the people who are involved in the special ed pack, and they're very welcoming. So, if anybody's listening to this and has a concern, don't be afraid to go to one of their meetings. Some of them have been virtual, some of them have been in person. I think it's also really important for the teachers to reach out and connect, and I know they have. We've heard about it directly from the administrators. And there was an awful lot of effort last year when we had the hybrids set up. The special ed kids with severe to moderate needs were the kids we got back into school full-time as quickly as we possibly could. So is there room for improvement? Probably, but I think we hit the main points.
Okay, thank you. Mark, to you next.
So I would say the parents of special education children, and special education is a big umbrella, but parents of special education children kind of run the same gamut as the rest of parents. They run from very involved to not involved at all. And I don't know how to bridge that gap. I mean, that's the same gap you need to bridge with all parents. I think, to be honest, there's maybe more effort to reach out to special ed parents than maybe there is for the parents in the middle. I don't know. I mean, I've heard that said, that the kids in the middle are often the ones that are most overlooked. On one note, I was in an IEP meeting recently, and a lot of it comes down to the parents. They were phenomenal. They're giving the complete rundown of all the progress that their son has made, since early childhood, and all the progress that he's made this year. They were 100% on the ball about these markers in their son's life, and it was all with humor, and the child sat there thoroughly, joyful for the fact that his parents were advocating for him so strongly. And we just need to encourage all parents to come out and advocate enthusiastically. But again, in terms of reaching out to the parents that are less involved, that's a tough nut to crack. I'm not quite sure how to do that.
Okay, thank you. Mary Ellen.
I do not have a lot of experience with special needs children. I have a special needs nephew, and my husband drives a special needs bus for the town of Walpole. And I do feel overall that Walpole is doing an exceptional job reaching out, educating, and including parents in their children's education. I truly feel that parents need support. They need to be they need full communication, and I feel that special needs children need to feel accepted like all children and recognize that they have something to contribute to society. I am not an expert on this, but I would say, in conclusion, come join Girl Scouts.
Carrie, the question's to you next.
It's heartbreaking to think about families that feel isolated in their own schools and their community. You know, I do have experience with having the expectations of what your life with your child is going to be and what they actually are differ, and that's challenging for anybody. I think that one of the ways we work to decrease that isolation is to keep as many of our special ed programs in-house in district as we possibly can, to limit the number of children who are forced to go out of district to receive the appropriate setting for their education. I think also our efforts to increase counseling support, especially at the elementary schools, has been really important because those counselors are able to conduct social groups and facilitate social interactions between special ed students, regular ed students. I think that's been really important. I think certainly we have some work to do in terms of making sure we have better proactive communication for special ed parents, especially in terms of explaining how the IEP evaluation and review processes work. Not all families feel comfortable advocating and asking for the information they need. We need to have it there so that nobody has to come and ask for it. I think, too, it's incumbent on all of us as a community to think about how are we including these families that we know are our neighbors or our children's classmates. It's, you know, the schools play a big role, but I think we all could reflect on that a little bit and think of ways as a community we could come together to support those families.
Okay, thank you. Caitlin, the question is to you. Absolutely. What will you do to engage and involve special needs families who feel isolated from the community?
I guess what I would do first was let people know if something came across my inbox or my mailbox, however it works, is that I would do whatever it takes to make them feel included. If I didn't know the answer, I'd find the answer for them. I would love to see, you know, a way to incorporate kids with special needs to feel like just one of the kids in school, whatever that takes. If we could build on programs in the community that make special needs families feel just like any other family, and if there were needs beyond that, then I would do what it would take to, you know, get the right answers or the right resources for them within my limitations.
Okay, thank you. Well, we've reached the end of our questions and we're ready to start closing statements. And we'll do reverse order from where we started. So Adrienne, you go first, and they're 1 minute each. And then we go straight down the line since you so nicely sat in alphabetical order.
Well, thank you everyone for listening, and I'm available for any questions or anything afterwards. I know our information is now public for phone numbers and emails, but I am passionate about the growth of this town and the school system and feel as though I can be an informed set of eyes in budgeting decisions, especially regarding special education needs. I'd also like to work on the relationships and trust, and I circled trust, between the schools and parents. Communication is key, and parents want to be heard. And I'd like to see new ways of communicating and connecting families, teachers, staff, and administrators. My whole career has been a liaison. Doesn't matter what position I've had as a teacher, as an actual liaison from Children's Hospital to Boston Public Schools. That's been my job and my life and my pursuit. So I hope to do that in this position as well and see other ways that we can connect with the Department of Education and connecting some of the dots that I think that's what all parents want. They just want to be heard.
Thank you. Mary Ellen, 1 minute to you.
Okay. Sometimes we don't have expertise in some areas, but once you're on the board and in the position, you have a learning curve and you come up with solutions. And that's what I would look forward to doing, especially in the special needs department. I look forward to working with the administrators and teachers to develop educational standards with an emphasis on excellence. I insist on academic goals that challenge students and prepare them for success. I ensure that I want to ensure there is accountability on all levels and make all educational materials available to parents for them to review if they are interested. And I guarantee that there is absolute transparency, and parents are kept informed at all matters affecting their child's intellectual, physical, and social development. I look forward to your vote on June 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. And Nancy, to you.
Thank you. And thanks for staying, as many of you have. I'm passionate about Walpole, I'm passionate about high-quality public education, and I'm passionate about children and young adults. I believe I have skills that are needed on our school committee. I have an ability to listen and share options, consider diverse ideas. I enjoy balancing the need to both support and challenge our administrators. And I have an ability to manage and secure our budget. It's, as we talked about, it's different every year, and it takes a great deal of skill, including negotiating contracts, which is another area that I have some skill in. My 4 children have graduated from the Walpole schools, and we have scores of friends and family who continue to make us proud. I think we're doing really good things. I love this job. Look forward to talking to anyone who wants to talk, but please vote on June 4th and consider supporting me with one of your votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie?
Our collective experiences over the past few years, I think, have really emphasized the integral role our schools play in our community. I think the residents of Walpole realize just how strong our schools are, thanks to our district leadership, our teachers, and our staff. We all became more aware of how much we rely on our schools, not just for our children's education, but their socialization, their nutrition, physical and mental health, and well-being. And we've strived to meet those needs through a variety of actions over the last few years. We expanded the one-to-one Chromebook program to now serve all students in grades K to 12. We increased opportunities for students to take AP courses and earn college credit. We added counseling positions to better meet our students' social and emotional needs. And we revised our strategic plan to demonstrate our district's commitment to educational equity. Walpole deserves a school committee that will advocate for the academic and social emotional needs of all students and that will continuously strive to meet them. I have a proven record of service to this district. It would be my honor to receive your vote on June 4th so I can continue serving as a member of our school committee. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Thank you. So, as you might have picked up, I tend to speak in layman's terms, and hopefully there's a role for that. I kind of joke around about being the token curmudgeonly teacher on the school committee, and again, I think there's a place for that. You know, my 2 big things to kind of reiterate a point or 2 that I've made are having a stable school administration. It's all well and good, whatever expertise we bring to the table, but you just need to understand that there are communities out there that go through superintendents and go through principals and go through budget directors at an amazing rate, and it has a huge impact. So our job is to kind of keep a good thing as far as that goes. And secondly, we need to bring this middle school along, you know, on budget and on time. And I think a lot of the inflation that we're experiencing was already baked into the cake when we came up with those numbers. So I'm pretty confident that we'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Caitlin?
Well, thank you all for staying here and for watching at home. I think I'm not a teacher, but I am a mom, a parent, and I think that's what's missing from the school committee is parents' advocacy. And I like to think of every child as if they were my own child. I would focus on advocating for them, for their parents, and including them. I know what it's like to have your feelings hurt. My feelings were hurt when I wasn't invited to be included in this really nice booklet of Candidates Guide. So I would advocate. I love to advocate for the underdog, for the left out person. And I would like to see honors programs grow and kids be recognized for academic excellence and other areas of excellence. And I would appreciate your consideration on June 4th. Thanks.
Thank you. Just a reminder to Walpole residents, you're going to vote for 3 of these candidates and their 3-year terms. So thank you all for running. So about the representative town meeting candidates, there are contested races in all precincts except for precinct 5 and precinct 6. All candidates for a seat at representative town meeting have been invited to create a brief introductory video, which will be included with the airing of this taped program over Walpole Media TV channels. That is why we're not doing the usual dog and pony show almost of the representatives. And I wanted to thank all of the candidates, especially the ones who are still here, for their participation this evening. We also very much appreciate the support of the Walpole Media TV staff for producing this program on behalf of the citizens of Walpole. Please remember that Walpole's election will take place on Saturday, June 4th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Absentee ballots are available now until noon on Friday, June 3rd. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Please participate and vote. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sean Ahern, and I'm a candidate for re-election for RTM in Precinct 6. I currently serve on the school committee and as an RTM for Precinct 6, and I previously served the town on the finance committee. I'm seeking re-election because I'd like to continue the dialogue between myself and fellow members of Precinct 6 to help have conversations and educate me on what is the best use of my vote during town meetings. I like to continue to be transparent, continue to be focused on the future, but also remembering what Walpole needs to function properly on the day-to-day today. I hope you'll consider voting for me on June 4th. Have a great day.
My name is Jane Bergen. I'm running as an RTM incumbent for Precinct 3 and respectfully request your vote. I've lived in Walpole for over 42 years with my husband Hunt. We've raised our 3 kids here who all attended Walpole Public Schools. In those years, I've been very active in town as a volunteer in government on the personnel board and as an RTM for over 10 years. I've also been on Walpole Green, Walpole Recycles, and on the Friends of the Walpole Public Library, and also been very active in the United Church of Walpole. I've been very proud of what we've been able to accomplish over the past 10 years with the senior center, the library, the police station, and the renovations we've been able to make to other town buildings, as well as the upcoming new middle school. I am, however, a senior, and I live in a senior development, and so I'm very well aware that many seniors do have limited income, and I fully support the town manager's efforts to come up with a way to reduce the tax burden on our needy senior citizens. I hope you will support me on June 4th so I can continue working to make Walpole a better place to live for everyone, and I respectfully request your vote. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Liana Cosgrove, and I'm running for RTM for Precinct 5. I was born and raised in Hawaii, moved to Boston for graduate school, and eventually made my way to this great town where I've lived for nearly 14 years. My husband and I have 2 daughters who attend Boyden and Bird Middle Schools. I'm an active community member, served on the Town Forest Committee for many years, and I provided support for several initiatives that have improved the experiences of Walpole's school children and families. Having operated a local business for 11 years here, I've also gotten to know many Walpole residents and business owners. I've also been a kindergarten teacher for nearly 30 years, so I know how to listen and ask questions. I'm honest, approachable, responsible, and I do my homework, just like you. By watching these videos, you're already playing an important part in the running of the town of Walpole. You're collecting information about how to make informed choices about who will represent your voice in upcoming town decisions such as budget, infrastructure, and new initiatives. I hope you'll honor me with your vote on June 4th. I look forward to representing my fellow neighbors in Precinct 5 in future town meetings. Thank you for your support.
Hi, my name's Carrie Denizio, and I am seeking a 3rd term as RTM for Precinct 4. I love serving our town. I consider it a privilege to do so. I'm also currently serving on the Walpole School Committee and the Master Plan Steering Committee. I work really hard to educate myself about the issues facing our town. I listen thoughtfully to my constituents and to the debate at town meeting among my fellow RTMs. And I also work really hard to educate all of the residents of Walpole about what's going on in town by co-authoring the Future of Walpole What's on the Warrant posts twice a year, and also by live tweeting the proceedings at town meeting. In my 6 years of service, I have a record of perfect attendance at town meeting, and I look forward to continuing to serve my neighborhood and precinct as a dedicated RTM. Thank you.
Hi, Walpole. My name is Audrey Grace, and I'm running for RTM in Precinct 6.
As an RTM, I am committed to transparency, not just in the outcome of decisions, but also in the process, how we decide where to spend your money, your family's money. I promise to continue to challenge any and all processes that I believe are not fully transparent to everyone. I've always been accessible and responsive to you, my constituents in Precinct 6, who I represent. I promise that I will always be there to connect with you, listen to your concerns, and be your voice at town meeting. I know that we all want what's best for our community, and as your RTM, I will do everything in my power to ensure that Walpole remains a place of choice for us all to live, work, and play. I hope that all of you in Precinct 6 come out and vote for me, Audrey Grace, on June 4th. See you at the polls.
Hello, Walpoleans. Greetings. My name is Kiran Guntupalli, running for an RTM from Precinct 1 in the upcoming town elections to serve the community and the beautiful town of Walpole that I've been calling home for nearly 13 years. I am a proud father of 2 boys and a husband. Both of my boys go to Fisher School. I am a first-generation immigrant from India. Came to this country nearly 22 years ago, living the American dream. I became a naturalized citizen in late 2020 and have since been engaged in town elections. Recently did a campaign knocking on doors in support of building a combined new middle school. I know the weather is getting better and you probably have plans to spend time with your family and friends, but please take a few minutes of your weekend to cast your vote on Saturday, June 4th. I'm counting on your support. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jen Karnakis, and I'm running for RTM in Precinct 3, a position I've had the honor and privilege of holding for the last 2 years. Walpole faces complex issues and spending decisions, and I'm running for RTM to help find solutions that work for our entire community. As an attorney, I pride myself on being able to handle and analyze complex problems and work with people who have competing priorities to find solutions and compromises. As an RTM, I promise to evaluate each issue on its own merits without prejudging any proposed solutions. I would welcome the opportunity to work with Precinct 3 residents and other RTMs in an open and transparent manner to keep Walpole safe and affordable, to make our schools strong, and to take care of our infrastructure. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jean Kenny, and I'm running for re-election as RTM in Precinct 7 because I'm committed to representing the residents of Precinct 7 and the greater Walpole community by thoroughly researching all issues and ensuring that current and future planning align with Walpole's needs. I've attended town meeting for the past 15 years, first as a member of the Walpole Public Schools, and for the last 3 as an RTM. I've voted thoughtfully as an RTM. My experience in budget development, responsible management, and engaging diverse groups to reach consensus supports my candidacy. As a 37-year Walpole resident and current Finance Committee member, having raised 3 children in town, I've worked on several issues to ensure the realistic and positive growth of our community, and will continue my commitment to serve all of the people of Walpole if re-elected. Thank you very much for your vote on Saturday, June 4th.
Hello everyone, my name is Gene Komarnitsky. My wife Marina and I are running for representative town meeting member in Precinct 7. We believe in strong support for our schools, local business, and first responders. We moved to Walpole because we knew it was the perfect town to start our family. We want to see Walpole grow and prosper, but more importantly, we want to make sure that our residents can continue to live here, especially our seniors. As someone that cares for seniors and disabled individuals every single day, I want to make sure that everyone in town has a voice. This is why we're asking for your vote on June 4th. Thank you for your consideration.
Hi, I'm Shannon McCarthy, candidate for RTM in Precinct 3. I have served on the Personnel Board and 2 terms as RTM in Precinct 4, and now I'm really excited to get the opportunity to represent the people of Precinct 3. I'm running for RTM because I'm a big believer in community service, and I am something of a municipal government junkie. Over the past few years, I've gotten really invested in learning the inner workings of the town and making sure that our town is run in a responsible way that serves the needs of all people. If you elect me, I pledge to do my homework always, to do my research. I will watch the Finance Committee meetings. I will go to the public hearings. I will read all the materials, and I will listen to a well-rounded variety of perspectives. I will always speak up and ask questions. I'm not afraid to stick my neck out, and first and foremost, I will always have the best interests of our people in mind. So if you are in Precinct 3, I would love to have your vote. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah McCracken, and I'm an RTM candidate for Precinct 4. My husband and I have lived in Walpole for 4 years, and we now have a 9-month-old daughter who we're thrilled to have grow up in our town. For the last 2 years, I've been volunteering as a member for the Walpole Cultural Council, and I'm currently its treasurer. This has been a wonderful opportunity to help promote arts, music, and cultural diversity programs for the benefit of our town and our residents. If elected as an RTM, I will vote to support measures that will ensure that our schools are safe and modern places to learn. I'll vote to support measures that help Walpole on our goals to reach our climate and resiliency targets. And I'll vote to support measures that help to increase inclusivity in our town. I look forward to speaking to more residents of Precinct 4, and I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Greetings, residents of Walpole, especially Precinct 2. I am Mary Ellen Jordan Mercier. I've been in Walpole for 45 years. I am running for our representative town meeting member. I am looking to represent Precinct 2. I am concerned about the taxes in Walpole, the water bills in Walpole, and I am a definite fiscal conservative. I am looking to hear from the residents of Precinct 2. Come to me, talk to me about your concerns, and I will bring it to the town. Vote June 4th. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susan Naughton, and I'm running for re-election for RTM in Precinct 4. I'm a special education teacher in a neighboring town, and I have experience working in Walpole's summer school programs. I have served as a Precinct 4 RTM for 5 years. I've never missed a town meeting, and I've always come prepared and informed about the issues up for vote. I'm thrilled to raise my own children in Walpole, and I'm always looking for ways to engage more citizens in our town government and community. The diversity of our elected officials should reflect the diversity of the town, and if selected, I pledge to hear from all voices in Precinct 4. I believe in small schools, strong community programs and services, and in welcoming our neighbors. That being said, town meeting is the only place that taxpayers have a direct say on what we spend and if our taxes will be increased, and I do not take that responsibility lightly. I encourage all residents to reach out to me with their concerns. Thank you for your time, and I hope that you will consider voting for Susan Naughton for RTM in Precinct 4. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Deb Pedersen, and I'm running for re-election as an RTM in Precinct 2. I'm a working mother, and I've lived in Walpole for over 10 years with my family. Since being elected as an RTM in 2019, I'm proud to have placed votes in favor of the new middle school, the athletic fields on Route 1A, and for school budgets that have now made kindergarten free for all Walpole residents. If re-elected, I promise to continue to do my homework, listen to residents, and show up prepared to vote at every town meeting. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Pinkham, and I'm running for representative for town meeting, or RTM, for Precinct 6 in Walpole this election season. I've lived here for almost 9 years with my family. I have 2 small children, and we continue to love the engaging and welcoming community that Walpole is. After working on the middle school building project and helping be part of the group that worked to get that passed, I want to really devote even more time to helping grow Walpole and lead it into the future. As an RTM, I promise to have open and transparent communication, to prepare ahead of time and attend all town meetings, to consider all the viewpoints of my constituents and folks in Precinct 6, whether I agree with them or not, and to make sure I'm always providing accurate information. If you're looking for the areas or the things that I support, as an RTM candidate, I very much support and value education, how we can grow local businesses, particularly in the center of town, fiscal responsibility with taxpayer dollars and making sure we're using them efficiently, and making sure we have affordable housing for everyone, young and old.
Hello, my name is Tom Piscatelli, and I am running for RTM for Precinct 5 in Walpole. I am an engineer and work for an orthopedic medical device company focused on helping patients regain mobility and their quality of life. I've been a resident of Walpole for 13 years and want to take a more active role in the decisions that will shape the future of Walpole. As a father of 2 young children, education is especially important to me. I want to help ensure that Walpole's high quality of education continues for years to come. I believe I can be a voice for all of those in my precinct and kindly ask for your vote. Thank you.